When is a good time to quit your full-time job? Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Future in 5. My name is Jacob Morgan. This is where I share my thoughts, ideas, and commentary on the future of work in 5 minutes or less. Although the last few videos have gone 6, 7, 8 minutes. Hopefully this one won't. So today I want to talk about how do you know when it's time to quit your full-time job and maybe what you should do next. And I thought I would share a little bit of personal experience around what I did. I had my last full-time job in probably 2007, maybe 2008. And the way that I quit my full-time job is I knew what my monthly expenses were going to be. And this, keep in mind, I was living in San Francisco, which is now like completely out of control as far as pricing goes. So I knew what my monthly expenses were going to be as far as rent, groceries, etc. I also had some money saved up in my bank, so I already knew that I had enough money to cover those costs for at least 8 months. And I had some kind of side projects and stuff like that that I was getting inquiries about. So I knew it was time for me to leave my job when the factors that at least I consider to be important weren't being met. And part of it is I look at this concept of employee experience, and around corporate culture I like to think of 3 areas. Sense of purpose, are you treated fairly, and do you feel a sense of worth? And once those things started to disappear for me, I knew it was time to go. Purpose, when I first started working at the company I was very excited. Until one day I won a pass to go to a conference, and the management team wouldn't let me go to the conference. And it was a marketing conference. I worked for a marketing agency. I had no client deliverables, no deadlines, nothing. They basically wouldn't just let me go just for the sake of it. And so at that point I realized I was kind of a slave to this organization, and I needed to get permission to even go outside. So my sense of purpose disappeared, my sense of fairness diminished, and my sense of worth completely fell through. And so at that point I realized that, these 3 criteria that I set for myself are unfair. It's time for me to go. How do I make this transition? Well, you have to have enough to cover your expenses, at least for 8 months to a year. That was a rule that I set out for myself. I knew I had that. Number 2, I needed to have some sort of income coming in doing something. It could have been working at Starbucks. It could have been driving for Uber, although Uber wasn't around at the time. Something had to be coming in for me. And so I wrote articles for people. Brian Solis actually was one of the people that I wrote articles for way back when he had his website, Bubblicious. I had some search engine optimization side projects that were coming in on the side. So I at least had some sort of income coming in, where I broke it out and realized that even if I didn't work for at least 8 months or 9 months or 10 months, I would be fine covering all of my expenses. So at that point I realized it was time for me to go and to make that transition. Best decision I have ever made in my life. Had I not done that, who the hell knows what I'd be doing right now. Because I left and I focused so much on building my personal brand after that last full-time job, I've been able to get these, book deals. I don't know where my books are, hanging out somewhere back there. I was able to get all sorts of exciting writing opportunities, speaking gigs. That was because I left that full-time job to pursue what I wanted to do. So it's different for everybody. How do you know when it's time for you to leave your position? Well, I think you need to think about those 3 criteria. Do you have a sense of purpose? Do you feel like you're treated fairly? Do you have a sense of worth at your organization? You also have to look at what your overall career goals are going to be. What do you want to do for yourself, with yourself? Well, what's your trajectory? I'll do more videos talking about that in the future as well. But for me, my criteria weren't met, and I had enough money to get out of there, and I also had some income coming in. That was it. It was very simple. So at that point, I realized it was time for me to go, time for me to move on. For you, it might be a little bit different. For you, you might, I don't know, maybe you had a bad day at work, and all of a sudden you realize you don't want to be there. But, if you do transition, if you leave, whether you go work for yourself or go work for somebody else, don't just kind of quit cold turkey without having something in place. I always say you need to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. For me, my plan A was to go work for another company full time. Plan B was to do some side work. Plan C was to move back home with my parents in LA, assuming everything went to hell. Thankfully, my plan A worked out just fine. But for you, I would recommend having multiple plans in place. It depends what stage you're at in your life as well. I was single, I didn't have kids, my expenses were low. It was very, very easy for me. If I had to make that decision, let's say now or in a couple of years from now, where I had, maybe a kid, 2 kids, a house, a mortgage, chances are I might not have made that decision unless I had much more income coming in, if my expenses were a little bit different. But I think the important thing from this is set up criteria for yourself around what it's going to take for you to leave as far as your expenses, income, what you need, and set up some kind of red flags for yourself around when you know it's time to leave. Like, what are the signs you're looking out for? Is your company not getting funding? Is your organization not treating you well? Are you noticing too much bureaucracy? Like, what's going on? Once you see those flags have all been ticked off, and once you see that your criteria for what you need to move on is there, go for it. But don't ever regret it. Don't look back. Don't have sort of quitter's or buyer's remorse, because that's just going to not end up well for you. So that's it. I mean, that's my piece of advice. Make sure you cover your expenses. Do it smart. There's nothing wrong with leaving your job and going elsewhere. Don't be stupid about it, because it's just going to come back to bite you later on. Curious to hear what you think. Leave me a comment below. Have you transitioned from one company to another? Have you gone from freelancer to full-time employee, or full-time employee to freelancer? How did you do it? What is your secret? What criteria did you use? And what had to happen for you to make that transition? Leave me a comment right below. If you want to get access to more of these videos, podcasts, newsletters, etc., you can subscribe to my newsletter. You can do that by simply texting the word future to the number 44222. Again, that's the word future, and text it to the number 44222. If you want to sponsor some videos, podcasts, etc., gets tens of thousands of views every month, you can email me, jacob@thefutureorganization.com. And as usual, I'm on Twitter @JacobM. Of course, I went over 5 minutes. It's now 7 minutes and 20 seconds. So that's it for me. I'll see you next time on an episode of The Future in 5. And if you have any questions, send them my way. Hey, are you interested in the future of work? If so, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get all the latest content on the future of work and stay up to date on all the latest trends and happenings. Not to mention, you will make me very, very happy. Make sure to subscribe.